Welcome to MGMT 420 Part 2. In this part of the video, we will be describing how to find academic scholarly peer-reviewed journals. There is a video at the top of the page from Cornell University. It's about a 90-second video. I usually show this one in class. I'm going to suspend that for today, but you're welcome to use it at your leisure. I've already mentioned the Maxwell Library Catalog, and there's a chat box down here that if any time when you're doing research you need some assistance, that the librarian's online, you can chat with us about your questions and we can get back to you. Sometimes it's instantaneous chat, sometimes it's email. I'm going to show you the Business Source Premier database. There's a number of different databases listed here. The particular topic that I've been mentioned is alumni and student engagement. So you can take that from a marketing and business perspective, or you could also take it from an education perspective. I'm going to start with the database Business Source Premier, and you can search through more than one database at a time. Another database that you may want to check later on is Science Direct College Edition. It's used similarly. It's a different database with a different platform. You'll also use keywords and Boolean search operators with it, but you can't search it at the same time as the Business Source Premier because it's another company's. Academic Search Premier, ERIC, and Business Source Premier. The psychology databases you can search for through at the same time. I'll give you an example of that in a little while. So I'm going to click on Business Source Premier and wait for it to open up. You can begin your search by narrowing it down to peer-reviewed scholarly journals, which I mentioned in the last video, which would eliminate trade journals, magazines, and newspapers, or you can do that later on during your search, especially if you're looking for 8 resources and only 4 of them have to be academic, you can narrow it down at that time. So you can begin at the top and type in your main subject. So I'm interested in alumni, so I'm going to type in alumni, and notice that when I do my search on alumni, there's over 5,887 articles on alumni, and that's far too many for me to want to use. So now I'm going to narrow it down even further. I can narrow my next topic down to college students. And I could stick with college students, or I could make it more broad and use the words search for college students or university students or undergraduates. I don't care as long as one of those terms are in that. So if I narrow my search down to those particular resources, the topic on alumni, I now have 476 articles on alumni and college students, alumni, or university. So the word or is a Boolean search, means either one of those terms can be in the search. The word and between the word alumni and college students means both terms have to be searched. So if I want to narrow this down even further, I can add an additional term down here. So I can say engagement. And I could say keep with engagement, or I could add to involvement, participation, motivation. I could add any of these other terms. So now it's saying, tell me how many articles have alumni and college student or university or undergraduate and engagement or motivation or involvement. If I don't find any, I can change my search term at any time. If I want to narrow it down even further, I can click this box and add additional searches. So I'm just going to check for my particular topic. I found 56 articles. Some of these articles are full text, which means you can find the article right then and there. Some say full text finder, which means you need to click the link and follow it and see if we have access to this in one of our other databases. And some of them will be full text in the resource. So anything that has a PDF or an HTML means that that particular article right there, full text, is online and you can read it. If it gives you the word request through interlibrary loan, that means we do not have access to that particular resource. You can click on the link, request it from our interlibrary loan staff. They will find out what library has that particular article, and they will send an email with the attached article to you. And it takes a couple of days to do that because they have to find out what that library is and get back to you. But you can't read it today, but it will be accessible. So if you want to start out with just those articles that you can read today, you can say, I'm only interested in the full text articles, and you can be more specific and say, of these 33 articles that I found today, how many of them are peer-reviewed, the scholarly journals that I want for those 4 articles. So you can narrow it down even more specifically to peer-reviewed journals, and you can also narrow it down by time frames too. So I'm going to stick with that. So right now, I found 19 articles with my particular search terms. If I change any of these search terms, add to it, or then I can find additional articles. So if I find an article, understanding the factors that influence student satisfaction with the undergraduate business major, and I want to look at this particular article, I can click on HTML, which would give me a hypertext markup language view, or I can use a PDF. Given the choice, I always recommend that you click the PDF because the PDF will open up the article as it appears in its original source. Notice it has an abstract, it might have statistics and data, it has a methodology in it, and it has, at the end of it, will have the scholarly resources that that person used in writing their particular resource. If you would like to save this particular resource, you may pull it into your Google Drive, you can print it, you can click email and email the link to yourself, and you can also save the permalink right over here. Do not save the link at the top of the page. It is not a permalink, and you will not be able to get back to that article later on. So I always recommend emailing the article to yourself, printing the article, pulling it into Google Docs, or saving the permalink. You can also download the particular article to your particular device as well. On the side over here, there is a draft of the citation of the article. If you click that yellow piece of paper, this will give you a draft of the APA citation. It gives you the author, title, and other information. I say it's a draft because citation generated from databases like this are not always perfectly accurate. Sometimes there's little glitches in it. For instance, in some cases, they'll capitalize the author's last name. So you either have to be very familiar with APA to verify that it's 100% accurate, or you can use another source like NightSite, which I will try to remember to mention later on, to set up your source and get it in APA format, which is what you're going to be using for this particular class. When you're done looking at a particular article and looking at it, you can go back to your research results and look through any of the other articles that might relate to your particular search. If you find one that relates, you can open up that article and do the same thing that we did to the others. If you have not found enough articles, you can go to the top of the page and click Choose Databases. This does not give all of the library databases, but it gives some of them. So, for instance, I want to expand beyond those disciplines for just business source Premier. I can click Choose Databases, and I could check some other things. So I could check ERIC. ERIC is Education Resources Information Center. It's an education-related resource. Masterfile, Premier, and Teacher Resource Center are two other education-related resources. I might want to take, and there's also Education Research Complete. I might even want to expand it to a psychological perspective, so I can add psychology. So this is getting away from just the business component aspect of it. It's expanding it into other resources. So each of these that I click will bring me additional resources. Then I say, okay, my search looks the same as it did before, although sometimes it takes the peer-reviewed box out. So if I'm looking for the peer-reviewed, I may have to re-click that particular link. But when I go back up to the top and click Show All, it will give me all the databases that I'm searching through. So when I redo my search, I had 33 or a few before. When I expand my search, I'm going to find additional resources above and beyond what I found before. So this is using keywords or scholarly resources. You can use the subject guides and the sources at the top of the page to find additional resources. And depending upon how you put your words in terms in, you'll get different search results. This has been an example of just the EBSCO databases. The original database that I showed you earlier gives you some other databases you can also check through for additional resources. And you can also use Google Scholar on that page. So I'm going to get off of this particular page, go back to my guide right here, and at the bottom you can use Google Scholar. Google Scholar in this particular one is set up so that our students can search through our particular resources that are linked out to it. So if I say student, I'm just going to briefly do student engagement in here and say submit. You'll notice that it has PDF links that bring you back to the BSU resources. So in Google Scholar, you can also narrow your topic down by years. You can take out any of the patents and citations that are listed in there because they aren't necessarily ones you're looking for. You can edit the time frame of the years. You can do this in the databases too, so you can say how far back you want to do your research. and look through these resources as well. So I'd recommend using the, as per your assignment, using the Maxwell Library databases that are listed on that page, or using Google Scholar through the library page because it links you back to any of the PDF and other resources that we have. Stay tuned for part